Are we on? All right. Well, very good. We'll call this special meeting of the Marion County Board of Supervisors to order. It's January 18th. It is 3 o'clock. Danny, roll call.
Keisha Donner.
Here.
Mark Ramey.
Here.
Steve McCombs.
Here.
Would entertain a motion on this afternoon's agenda.
I make motion to approve today's agenda.
Second.
McCombs.
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye.
Donner.
Aye.
Very good. On to business. So this meeting has been called to discuss impacts to Marion County departments, specifically related to the Supreme Court ruling on the vaccine mandates for public health employees. As you know, the OSHA side has been stayed, so we're not going to speak about that because that more than likely will be overturned. But as for public health employees, we just need to have a discussion on how we're going to go about handling that. And Counselor, you can correct me if I'm wrong if you're up to speed on this, but as I've read through the rulings and the CMS guidelines and all the things related to this topic, the essential issue is that the court said that public health employees, hospital workers, etc., are covered or should fall under this vaccine mandate because Congress gave the agency broad regulatory authority for Medicare and Medicaid programs. Fair summary, Counselor?
Yes.
Okay. So with that being said, the question for us is our public health workers, and I believe they're the only materially impacted
We'll need the
group.
mics if they're gonna speak.
We receive a significant amount of support from Medicare and Medicaid. And Kim, maybe you give us a little background on that.
Yeah, from,
Hang on, Kim.
we don't get Medicare money.
Wait.
Sorry. Sorry. We don't get Medicare money, we get Medicaid money.
Medicaid.
Yep, Medicaid money, and it's tied to our maternal and child health program, which has kind of a waterfall effect in that if it is tied to maternal child health, we have other grant funding that is also tied to that. So there is kind of a waterfall effect on that. But if you look at our budget as a total, we have about a $2.1 million revenue budget, and only about $102,000 isn't connected to federal funding in some way. So it really does behoove us to figure out how this is applied and whether we actually meet the definition of a healthcare facility and do things like that.
Yeah, so Kim, and before we go any further, just want to also recognize the fact we have several members of the Public Health Board here. And thank you for attending this meeting because we feel it's important to keep you as board members also informed on this topic as well. I know we've talked about it at our public health meetings. So Kim, as far as the definition goes, and Ed, I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at that. Have you been able to look through the definition, and do we fall under it, in your opinion?
So let's be clear, there is no definitional instruction from the Supreme Court. So the question is, are we a healthcare facility? And if you go to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the CMS.gov, as recently as within the last hour, they have a page not related to interpretation of the Supreme Court decision, but just generally speaking, saying what is a facility. And their definition is facilities are defined as any provider, e.g. hospital, skilled nursing facility, home health care agency, outpatient physical therapy, comprehensive outpatient rehabilitative facility, end-stage renal disease facility, hospice, physician, non-physician provider, laboratory, supplier, providing medical services to beneficiaries. So I would defer to Kim, but it certainly doesn't sound like Marion County Public Health is a healthcare facility, as they are not providing medical services. First, they're not a healthcare facility.
Right.
Secondly, they don't provide medical services directly to beneficiaries. Now, I'm not sure what this page will look like a week from now.
Right.
But as the way it reads right now, with very limited, there is no guidance being provided by anyone on this topic. It appears we are not a facility, and it appears we do not provide health care.
Very good. So from your perspective then, Ed, this mandate right now would not apply to our public health unit?
Unless they change the definition of what a facility is.
Okay,
Based on what I'm being told from Kim as the services they provide don't provide medical care, or they don't provide medical services to beneficiaries, sorry, Kim, and they aren't any of the itemized or give an example facility. I would assume we're gonna get additional guidance down the road.
correct.
But as of right now, I didn't see anything through ICAC or anything providing guidance to public health boards today either, so.
That's interesting. Very good. I'm glad. Thank you, Ed, for doing the research on that, and Kim. That clarify, well, it doesn't clarify anything. Well, at least what it does is says to us, we have some options.
Yes.
So Kim, go ahead.
We don't provide any medical care. So sick people go to clinics and hospitals. We do prevention and we do prophylaxis and those kinds of things. So I really do believe that we don't fit into that category. If they tie it to HHS funding, that's a different thing.
So what happens then? If they tie it to HHS funding, what happens then?
Well, HHS funding is, we have a lot of grants through there. Medicaid, our Medicaid is through there. So if they tie it to Medicaid, which at the state level, Medicaid is tied to Medicare, but we don't do Medicare, we do Medicaid.
Okay.
So unless something happens at the state level that they say, oh, Medicare, Medicaid is tied together in Iowa, then, and then they make some other kind of a pathway, I really think we're probably okay.
Okay. Okay.
But I don't promise that.
The other thing I would say, just to keep in the back of your mind, there's two Iowa-specific laws, House File 902 and House File 889, both passed last legislative session, signed by the governor. That first, if there were any exemption or any mandates, the state of Iowa requires for a religious and medical exemption. And then secondly, in the specifics, it indicates that either local or state government can create any type of ID system that provides for whether or not a person is vaccinated or not. So that was House File 889, which if you read some of the websites more broadly state, government can't ask you what your status is.
Right.
That's not what the law says, but it is what it's kind of generalized. So as of today, January 18th at 3 o'clock, listening to Kim and reviewing the CMS website, I don't believe we're a facility and I don't think we provide medical care. But that's only based on the information I have at this moment in time. I do think that we're probably going to get some guidelines from the feds that are going to attempt to tie, if you receive dollars, then you have to comply.
Okay.
But we're not there yet.
But not at this point. Okay, very good. Steve, Keisha, any questions for Ed, Kim, or the group?
So, if the money is HHS money, if it comes to be found that it is tied to what we do, what are our options? If we say we're not going to mandate, then you lose the money.
And you could be
And
in violation.
in a roundabout,
Yeah, so maybe go ahead, Kim, and looks like you're ready to respond to that, so.
Well, I am going to guess that if that happens, it will happen to us through contracts. So a lot of our contracts they're federal contracts that are woven through the state system. So the contract for Marion County is with the Department of Public Health, who gets their money from DHS, who gets their money from HHS. And so I would think that if that happens, it will be through contracts, but I'm not positive. I don't know how they would, I was talking with someone this morning, and I think the only way that they would be able to really assure compliance is make it part of the auditing process for programs and such. Our options, I think, are, if they do that, our options get real thin real quick. But we still do have, you know, well, we don't, the folks who choose to not be vaccinated still have the ability to do the exemptions, the medical and the religious exemptions, if they fit those definitions.
Right.
And we already, we're pretty familiar with the medical and religious exemptions, because they already have a process in place for all immunizations for that.
Right, okay. Which, I'm glad you raised that, Ed, about the exemption side and the ability to use that, at least from an Iowa law perspective. As I thought through this, Steve, just if we get to a place where it is something we have to deal with, and I'm very glad we've had this discussion this morning, or this afternoon. But if we ever do have to deal with it, I think we broadly apply the exemption of our ability under Iowa law to provide for those. I still, and we don't ask for people's vaccination status. And we don't do that now as a matter of, from our HR perspective, we don't do that because of Iowa law requirements and just basically the principle of the thing. So I think we can meet the challenge if it ever comes our way, at least as Iowa law is currently stated. So
Kim, I do have one question for you. So in regards to the nurse giving shots, you're saying at this point, like, you know, vaccinations, I mean, that wouldn't fall underneath this at all?
They're not medical care.
Okay.
They are prophylaxis.
Okay.
They are prevention.
Okay.
So I choose to interpret this as providing medical care and care for sick people.
Okay.
I may at some point be told differently.
And then, Ed, do you see if this was to come down and there was certain departments, such as you said, as contracts, do you see them housing together? Is that going to be a problem? Meaning in the same building, in the same, I mean, I don't know what we're even looking at there.
Well, I think you bring up an interesting question as to whether or not you, by separating housing, for lack of a better term, where those individuals are housed, would that create separate divisions of, and I just don't know. I mean, our public health declaration expires February 8th. So we need to examine whether or not the governor is going to renew a public health declaration, because it is set to expire, but it's been set to expire before, let's be clear.
Right.
And I would anticipate in the next 10 days, there's going to be a whole lot of guidance being provided from the state side on what this means. But I do tend to agree with Kim. Just like every other contract that the county has to sign in for to qualify with different qualifications, this may be the way in which they handcuff you to compliance.
Okay.
And we'll make that decision.
When it
You
comes-
folks will have to make that decision, and I'm hopeful we'll continue to get more guidance moving forward on this.
mm-hmm. Very good.
Okay.
Good. Well, I appreciate the update and the discussion. We needed to discuss this, you know, in public as a board. This is one of those items that, as a result of the last several years, has changed our world a little bit on how we approach these things. So it's good to know that right now, as of right now, there's nothing we need to do until we receive further information. So, very good. Board, is there anything else you would like to discuss relative to this topic?
No, I don't have anything.
So if you make a decision contrary to the mandate, how does that affect us, Kim? What do we lose employees? Do we lose programs?
we did, if it was mandated and we did not comply, we would be at risk of our federal money, depending again on how the definitions fall, but,
But that means maybe a loss of employees,
absolutely.
if it's
Yeah.
contracted especially.
Depending on how it would all fall out, and I did a little bit of math this weekend on this, and if it was tied specifically to maternal and child health, which is our Medicaid program, it would affect about 33% of our staff. If it affected all federal funding that comes through HHS, including preparedness and response, and left WIC untouched, because WIC is through the Department of Ag, it would affect 70% of our staff. And if all federal funding, including WIC, it would leave about 5 staff members in our department.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball with that, but I do know I've been around a while. I know if somebody tries to force you to do something, they're gonna try to hit every base to make it work. That's my gut feeling.
We'll hope that they don't, and, I don't know, we'll just have to, it'll be interesting. This is a competitive year, and our competitive contracts are coming due. They should be, our first competitive contract should be released, this week. Actually tomorrow, I think, is our first one. And so a lot of this kind of thing is normally in the application guidance. So we'll see whether they put anything in that application guidance that is supposed to be released tomorrow, or if they push it out a ways so that they can make more changes to the guidance. So things we should start getting tidbits of information through, we have to kind of look for it, but hopefully that will help us to sort some of this out.
Okay.
This whole thing is so confusing.
There's a lot of moving parts.
When this whole thing started, everybody had to wear masks. Now all of a sudden the masks that we had to wear are no good. I mean, I don't know who to listen to anymore. And you get the vaccine, but yet you can still catch it. And I understand it probably reduces the severity, but people are so confused.
It's very confusing, and information has not been straightforward ever since the beginning of this. There's just not been straightforward information.
I'm not an opponent or supportive or whatever, but I believe it's a personal choice. That's my opinion. Am I saying you should get a vaccine? I don't know. Do they work? I don't know. But
I think it's something that every person needs to evaluate for themselves and their own families, and
I don't like being
make their
dictated to.
decisions based on what's best for them. And talk to your doctor if you don't know.
Well, and Steve, you vocalize it well. I think there are a lot of people out there wondering what to believe after all this. My biggest issue is that when you tie someone's employment to something you have to inject into your body, you've crossed a line.
Yeah, I feel like I'm being blackmailed.
You crossed a line. What's next? And I don't care whether it's the medical side or whether it would have been the OSHA side. What's next? That's patently unconstitutional. I don't need to be a Yale law grad to figure that out. So, all right, more to come on this, definitely. Yes?
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask a question.
You sure are.
With regard to our prevention, are we offering through WIC contraception?
No.
Okay.
Well, wait, I think they provide condoms.
Okay, so that's probably not medical, it's just medication.
No.
And my second question is, I think, my understanding of this law is we're one of 11 states that went before the Supreme Court, and the other states actually followed the mandate, which went into effect January 5th. So I'm curious if we know how those other states interpreted the CMS when it comes to healthcare facilities, because I think they've been under this rule now for about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, don't know. Ed, do you want to speak to that?
No, I don't have an answer. I don't know.
That's a
Very
good
good.
question.
Yeah.
But are they right or are they wrong? Right, you know?
Precedents. Precedents.
Well, just be mindful of the fact that the labor commissioner, 2 weeks ago said Iowa wasn't enforcing anything.
That's on the OSHA side.
Right.
Right. And also be mindful, Ron DeSantis in Florida, their legislature passed a law saying no mandates. So they told them on both issues, go fly a kite. We're not doing either one in the state of Florida.
until they cut off your CMS money at the hospital.
Right.
Well, I mean, that is the issue. The issue is these programs are so pervasive. It's our money coming back to us to take care of issues. And now they're gonna put strings, ties, and shots associated with it. So, all right, more to come as we find out. If you do happen to hear, Ed, or if you see something in the research, Kim, you see something that we need to reconvene and deal with this, then let's do that. Okay? Very good.
Sounds good.
Any more discussion?
Nope, I don't have anything further.
Steve?
Not at this time. I think we have to kind of wait and see.
Very good with that. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make motion, we adjourn.
Second,
McCombs,
aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
We appreciate it.